Hi everyone, welcome to Mr. Warid's class, and today we're going to talk about section B, part 2, where we're going to talk about how to go about the instructions so that you can score more than 10 for section B, part 2. But before that, my name is Warid bin Mihad, and I would like to thank USDP Tapang for organizing such an opportunity. And I really hope that everyone who's watching this will get some benefits from the information or the input that I'm going to share with you guys. Alright, so let's start. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to talk about section B, part 2. Do you guys know why is it so important to talk about section B, part 2? Because even though it only contributes 12 marks to your UPSR as a whole marks, but that 12 marks is very important, and it's actually quite easy to score 12 if you follow my suggestions or my tips. Alright, now by the end of today's session, students will be able to identify the task requirements in section B2 using FWIP 80. So we're going to learn a little bit about FWIP 80, okay? And I love to highlight that section B, part 2 is not just about writing, but it's also about comprehending the instruction as well. For the past 5 years I've been teaching, I have seen a lot of candidates who can actually get more or beyond than 10 marks, but they fail to get that because there are misunderstandings towards the instruction itself, and I feel pity towards them because I think that they are capable, definitely they are capable of getting more than 10 marks. So let's use FWIP 80, okay, in your activity or when you are sitting for the exam, and hopefully this, tips will be able to help you to survive your UPSR next year. And for those who are not sitting for UPSR, don't feel blessed, because you still need to master this so that when you go to the secondary school, you'll be able to survive the secondary school syllabus. Okay? Alright. So what is actually section B, part 2? So section B, part 2 is about writing an informative text to a receiver, and this could be either in an email, message, letters, either formal or informal, speech, and a postcard. So the Lembaga Peperiksaan definitely going to choose one of these formats to go for section B. So 12 marks is allocated here for you, okay? So altogether there would be like 12 plus 3 marks from part 1, then that's going to be 15 marks, and altogether that's going to be 30 marks. As I've mentioned earlier, it does not just test your understandings towards writing skill, okay? It's not just about you and your writing, but it's also about the way how you comprehend the instructions given to you, okay? And today's session, we're not going to talk about your writing, okay? We are only going to talk about your comprehensions towards the instructions, okay? Alright, so let's do some movements. Okay, so what are some of the issues in regards to section B, part 2? So basically, when we talk about the instructions, okay, arahan, you know what is the arahan? The arahan is normally the one that you can see on the top before the stimulus, okay? So you definitely can see the instructions, and you do know that the instructions comes in 2 languages, right? There'll be one in Bahasa Malaysia, another one is in the English language. So kids, if you do not understand the English instructions, what should you do? You should read the Bahasa Malaysia instruction and try to understand it well, okay? So don't waste that part. Alright, but most of the times I found that the candidates do not understand the instructions, you know. In what way they show that they do not understand the instructions? Number one, they give more points. Okay, we talk about this after this. And then they exceed the word limit. Even though the instruction says you have to write between 50 and 80, you guys still exceed the word limits. Hence, you'll be penalized by 1 mark. And that's 1 mark is actually quite a pity actually, because that 1 mark could determine whether you got A or B sometimes. And then there's also situations where they address the emails or the message to the wrong persons. And most of the times, you guys use wrong time frames, you know, like tenses and etc. Okay, so in order to save your situations during the exam, what I would like to suggest is that we use FWIP AT. So what is actually FWIP AT? So when you look at the instructions, you think about FWIP AT. Look at the instructions and then think about FWIP AT. You look at the instructions and you think about what? Yes, FWIP AT. Alright, so F stands for the format. You have to make sure that you know the format of the task. Okay, are we talking about email? Are we talking about messages? Are we talking about speech? Are we talking about letters, informal letters or formal letters? And then you need to identify, okay, to whom are we talking about? That would be the W in FWIP. Okay, to whom are we sending the letters to? Are we sending to our parents? Are we sending to our brothers? Are we sending to our friends? Okay, and then you have to identify in the instruction as well whether we are talking about to inform or to invite. Okay, and then you have to identify. You have to understand whether the task would require you to talk about something that has already passed or something that is about to happen. Okay, are we talking about past tense or things that had already happened, or are we talking about things that are gonna happen? Okay, and then how many points? We're talking about points. How many things that you have to mention? This is sometimes a big issue as well, because the instruction asks you to talk about 2 points, but you outsmart the instructions that you give 3 points. Okay, so automatically the examiners know that you fail to comprehend the instruction itself. Okay, remember, as I've mentioned earlier, when we talk about when we talk about section B part 2, we are talking about 2 things: your ability to understand the instruction and your ability in writing. Okay, and the last but not least, which is the AT, which is the word limit. So you should be able to write between 50 and 80 words. It's fine to write 50, you can still score more than 10. And it's also fine to write 80 and you can still score more than 10 as well. Okay? Alright. PPDKB, you have to fix the aircon here. Okay, now let's go to the first one, which is the format. You know what? Being teaching for almost like 5 years, I realized that kids, you have problems to memorize the formats of the essay itself. So basically, when there's only one thing that you have to remember, which is when we talk about the email. Okay, because the formats of the email, apart from the speech is a different one, but when we're talking about the letters, okay, when you talk about the formats of the letters, you have to remember this one. So let's say, Dear Ali, okay, comma. So the signature for an email should be down here, okay. Yeah, so this is for the email, okay. So this is gonna be cheers, comma, and then your names like Putin, okay. And then for other formats like messages and what do we call this, letters, you know, non-formal letters, then that's gonna be here, okay, like messages, and then letter, okay, non-formal letter, informal letter, okay, informal letter. So basically these are the things that you have to understand. Remember the arrow. We talks about email, then you go down straight the signature. When we talks about other than emails, then it goes to the right side, okay. Now, do you have to be worried about the format? No, you don't have to be worried about the format, because most of the time the lembaga peperiksaan will provide you with the template, okay. And as far as I'm concerned, they have never penalized you for wrongly apply formats into your essay. But okay, we always want to present something that is good to the examiner. So you might want to skip this kind of typo when it comes to the examiner. Okay, so you might want to show to the examiner that you actually understand the kind of formats that you're going to do with them. So number one, you have to know the format itself, okay? And some of the mistakes that I have highlighted here is that you are not sure where to sign your emails and then your letters. All right, but again, I'd like to stress, you're not going to be penalized for the format, okay? So it's a little bit less worrying. It's not a grave scenes for you. Nevertheless, I always think and I always advise to my kids that when you submit your script to the examiner, you have to make sure that your script is like bulletproof. You know, they couldn't find any errors on it. Okay, so one of the things is that you ensure that your format is good. Okay, your format is according to the format itself. All right. Number two. So number two, okay, number two, we talked about to whom are we sending the email or the letters to. Okay, now, unlike the first one, which is the format, number two is quite critical, you know, because if you wrongly put the receiver, then definitely the whole thing's going to mess up, okay? So you have to be very, very careful. So one of the things, or one of the mistakes that you keep doing in this kind of format is that when you write, number one, when you write, for example, dear mother, okay, this is one of the mistakes that you often do, okay? So when you write dear mother, you forgot to put the capital M here, okay? You see? So M in this context should be written in capital letter, dear mother with big M. You know why? Because this mother is replacing the name. So basically, it holds the rules of specific names, specific nouns, okay? So it has to be in capital letter for the first word, for the first letter. Now, apart from that, you often miss the comma, okay? So you have to punctuate properly as well. So to whom, these are one of the mistakes that often happen. Number two, mistakes that often happens at this part is that at the tops of your message, you say mother, but towards the end of the essay, it becomes father. I have no idea what happened to you, but this is definitely a typical scenario that we often see in your script. So it might sound funny, but actually it happens quite a lot, and I'm sure a lot of teachers, especially your teachers who are watching this, you would agree with me, okay? So for example, in this essay, I'm going to the zoo tomorrow. Can you make me some sandwiches? Thank you, father. Okay, you see how these kind of things happen? But these are the things that you have to be very careful. Another example, dear Ali and then suddenly I. Oh, how come? At the beginning of the story, you say it's dear Ali, okay? And then towards the end of the day, it becomes someone else, okay? So you have to be very, very careful, okay? Now, another examples that you often do at this to whom is that when you got confused, the receiver and the one who write this message. So as you can see in the next example given here, there's a dear Shasha, okay? So the one who is going to receive this email or letter would be Shasha, right? But have a look at the word regards. The names of the regards here is also Shasha. Okay, as I've mentioned earlier, although you are not being penalized too much on this part, but it somehow deteriorate, you know, the examiner's perceptions towards you. Okay, so we don't want this kind of things to happen in your essay. So number two, okay, from the FWIP tips is that to whom, you have to be very clear to whom you are sending the email or the message to. Okay, next, this is another example, and this is quite often happen, especially when we are talking about email. Okay, so you got confused to and from. Okay, to Alia, regards Alia, which is quite a similar situations like I have shown earlier. So kids, if you want to get more than 10 marks, you might want to avoid this kind of mistakes. Okay, I'm sure that some of you are very good, some of you has already shown a good control in this matter, but sometimes typo can happen just like that. Okay, so be careful. So now we've talked about two tips from FWIP, which is the F for format and the W for whom. Okay, let's go to the third one. The third one, which is quite big for me, is about invite or inform. In the question itself, you have to ask yourself whether the question would require you to inform or to invite. Okay, most of the times, the candidates fail to get more than 10 because when the question asks you to invite, you didn't invite your friend. Okay, so you missed the opportunity, so you'll be penalized for that. So ask yourself to invite or to inform. If the question would require you to invite someone, make it clear to the examiner. Okay, you pastikan examiner know about it, that you are inviting your friends or the receiver to in your letter or in your email. Okay, for examples that I've written here is that I'm writing this message to invite you. You know, like straightforward, telling the examiner, hey, I know lah what the question asked me about. Okay. The second example that I'm giving you is that if you have time, I hope you can come with me to the exhibitions. You see, so this is invitation, asking other people to come and join you. Another example is that I want to tell you about the new bookshop in our hometown. So we're talking about to tell, to inform only. Okay, and then I'm going to Funfair this Saturday. Do you want to come along? So this is an invitation as well. So you have to make it very clear to the examiner that you understand that the task would require you to invite or to inform someone. Okay, so now we've talked about 3 tips already. Number 1 is F, which is the format. Number 2 is W, which is to whom. And number 3 is I, okay, that stands for invite or inform. Okay, next, past or present. You guys, do you guys know past or present? Okay, now from the instructions you would definitely know, okay, you would definitely know whether you are talking about something that has already happened or something that is about to happen. My advice is that if the question, okay, if the question would require you to tell about something that had already happened, stick to this rule. Okay, now let's look at this essay. Okay, this one. So the first line, if you see here, is written in present tense. Why is it written in present tense? Because that's a salutation. You are asking apa khabar. It cannot be written in past tense. Okay. The second paragraph, you go straight for the past tense. Okay. So this is to indicate that you understand the instructions and you are telling about the past actions or the past story to the receiver. And maintain. Okay. Don't try to mix tenses within the paragraph itself. You can maintain the situations. For example, I know that some of the teachers going to say like, well, the one that I really like was the albino lion. Some of you might going to say that the one that I really like is the albino lion because it remained true until now. But there's another perspective to that, which is it remains true. It was true at that particular time. So it really up to you to decide whether to use a present or to use past. For me, both are accepted. But in order not to confuse yourself, if your understanding, if your skill in playing with the tenses is still at the average level, then you might want to maintain, you know, the past tense part as a past tense, and do not, you know, keep switching past, present, past and present like that. So maintain to the past tense itself. Don't be afraid, okay, because I'm sure the examiner, they are of good proficiency levels, and I'm sure they know and they understand the situations, because every time they read your text, your writing, they will read based on the situations and try to understand from this different perspective as well. Okay, and then, okay, I'm going to put here past, and then the last one, you're going back to present tense. So if the question would ask you, okay, to talk about something in the past, then maybe it's best for you to stick to present, past and present, and you go according to the paragraph. So the first paragraph, salutations, when you're asking apa khabar, buat apa, etc., then you go in present tense, and then towards the end of your email you talk about I look forward to your email, ataupun maybe you want to say that's all from me, bye. You know, as simple as that. It does not need to be lengthy. Okay, remember, section B part 2 is about whether you accomplish all the task requirements. Okay, if you fulfill all the task requirements, no matter how simple your writing are, you still able to score more than 10. Okay. The second example given here is an example where you are going to talk about some things that's about to happen, okay? Something that will happen in future. So, if you look at my essay, I try to maintain the use of present tense. Of course, those who are good candidates, you might want to say that you've been here. For example, said I went to Zunagara last time and there was a singing parrot performance, and I would like to watch that again. Okay, so you might want to reflect on your personal past experience into this. But if you are like average candidates, then maybe you might want to just stick to the present tense and then play safe when it comes to the exam. Okay, so if you look at here, the first line is definitely in present, the second line is also in present, and the third line is also in present. Okay, so this is how you play with the tenses. Okay, when you got the questions, if the question asks you to talk about the past, then the best is that the first paragraph written in present tense, the second paragraph written in past tense, and the third paragraph come back to the present tense. But if the questions ask you to talk about things that are going to happen, things that will happen in future, then the best is that you maintain present, present, and present. Unless you are very much confident with your writing level, writing proficiency is very high, then you might want to chuck in some reflections of your past visit into the situation itself. So I'm fine with that. But if your performance is quite average and you want to play safe during the examination, then you might want to stick to this pattern. Okay, so we've gone with number 1, which is format. Number 2, to whom. Number 3 is either inform or invite. And number 4, the first P would be past or present. Okay, now let's look at the fifth point, which is points. Okay, so points, PPDKB, you definitely have to fix the aircon here. All right, points. Okay, points, if you look into the instruction later we're going to do the instructions viewing together. Okay, we are going to analyze the instructions together. When we talk about points, you might want to be very careful with section B part 2, because as far as I'm concerned, if the task require you to talk about 2 points, then you must exactly give them 2 points. Okay, you cannot outsmart the instruction. Don't and never outsmart the instruction. Okay, if the instruction says you have to describe 3 points, then you have to describe 3 points only. If you are talking about let's say 1 point, then you have to talk about 1 point. But what actually the point? Okay, the point, I think if we review the question letter, then you might get a clear picture of what points I'm talking about here. Okay, all right, so but you have to remember, never outsmart the instruction. If the instruction asks you to give 1 point, you give 1 point. If the instructions ask you to give 2 points, then you give 2 points. If the instructions say 3 points, then you give 3 points. If the instructions say some, okay, very vague, very general. When people say some, then you definitely want to go more than 2. Okay, all right. What about 80 words? Remember in FWIP 80, there's a number 80. We are talking about number 80 because some of the candidates that I have marked so far at my school, they are good candidates. They are capable of getting above than 10 marks. But because they are too eager to write, they write more than 80 words. And I told myself, no, you have to control yourself, okay? You have to control not to exceed the word limit. In UPSR section B as well as section C, word limits play important roles. And you, as far as I'm concerned, you'll be penalized if you exceed the word limit. Okay, so if you write, then you have to write between 50 and 80 words, plus minus 10%. So basically, you can still go up until 88 words. Okay, and then what happens if you go more than 88 words? Then the best solution is to delete some of the words, okay? Erase some of the words so that it becomes 88, okay? Don't go beyond an 88. Once you go beyond an 88, you're going to start losing marks. Deduct 1 mark. You don't want that to happen, because 1 mark is always the savior, okay? You could be like 78 and then suddenly it was deducted because of that one silly mistakes, okay? So you might not want to do these mistakes, okay? So FWIP 80, F for format, W for whom, I for to inform or to invite. The first W is for, the first P would be for past tense or present tense. The second P would be for points, and the last one, 80, we are talking about 80 words. Okay, so with this FWIP 80, we are going to analyze the instructions given to you in section B2. Remember that I mentioned earlier, section B2 is not just about your writing ability, but it's also about your understandings towards the instructions given. So if you do not understand the instruction, definitely your writing will be off as well, okay? Because no matter how good your writing is, if you write some not according to the instruction or task requirements, you will never be able to get more than 10 marks. Do you understand? Okay, all right, so let's go. Let's do some activity. So if you look at this one, you realize that this is the stimulus given in part B, okay? So you are given choices like set A, set B, set C, and set D. So remember that the points that I mentioned just now, these are the points that we're talking here. Sometimes the question will say, okay, you are to choose 2 sets from the sets given. So you have to choose either set A or set B, either set C and set D, or the question will be very straightforward whether you are to choose one from the sets to talk about and discuss with the receiver. So these are the things that we talked about, the points, okay? Now, this is the instructions given to you. Let's see how we apply FWIP 80 in these instructions. Okay, you plan to buy your favorite books at a bookshop. Write a message to your mother telling her about one of the sets that you plan to buy. You may include reasons such as price, features, and gift in your message. Write your answers between 50 and 80 words. Okay, so remember that we have to analyze the instruction using FWIP 80. Okay, now let's do together. Okay, number 1, what is the first letter? F. F for what? Not for that F. Okay, F for what? For format. Yes. Okay. So, what is the format? Okay, now let's have a look into the instruction. It says here, write a message. If you look at here, write a message. So, we know that the format of our writing is going to be in message. But as I've mentioned earlier, most of the time, the lembaga peperiksaan will provide you with a template. So you don't have to be worried about this. But in case they're not giving you the template, then you have to be aware of how it should be written. Okay. So far, I have never heard that people being penalized because of they write in the wrong format. Okay. But as I mentioned earlier, it's always good to send to your to the examiner a script that is bulletproof. Okay. All right. Now, apart from F, what do we have? FWIP. The W. The W stands for what? The W stands for to whom. Okay. Now, to whom should we write this thing? Okay. Allow me to wipe a little bit. Yes, now I look more handsome. Okay. Now, to whom should we write this? Okay. Who are we supposed to write this thing to? Oh yeah, we're supposed to write to our mother. Okay, so we have to highlight the word mother here. So we have our W. Okay. Now, what's the next letter in our tip? I. Yes. FWIP. I. To invite or to inform. Okay. You plan to buy your favorite books at a bookshop. Write a message to your mother, telling her. Dia ada perkataan dia, telling. Okay, so telling her about one of the sets that you plan to buy. So kita ada perkataan telling here. This is the clue. The clue given to you is the word telling. So are you supposed to invite your mom? No, you're not supposed to invite your mom. You just need to inform your mom about your decisions. Okay, so when you write your email, you have to go by like, I'm writing this message to tell you that I want to buy a book and something like that. Okay, now what about the next one, which is the next P? Point. Present tense, or we're talking about points. Okay, points. How many points that are we supposed to talk here? Now, how many set? Okay, kalau you tengok balik here, okay, there are many set, right? Set A, set B, set C, and set D. So we want to know how many sets that we have to choose. Okay. Okay. So to tell her about one of the sets. So it has been made clear to you here. One of the sets. Okay. So this is the first P, point. One of the sets. Okay. The first P, point. So boleh tak kita buy 2 sets from this stimulus? No, cannot. Kita only have to choose one set only. Okay. Tapi cikgu, kalau if I give more, wouldn't I get more marks? No. You will never get good marks, or you never get more marks by telling more. Okay. So stick to the rules. Okay. You have to play by rules. So the question asks you to only talk about one of the sets. So only one, sayang. Okay. You may include reasons such as price, features, and gift in your messages. And it's also important to understand that the task requires you, okay, some of the points apart from the numbers of the set that you have to choose, the number of reasons that you have to choose as well, that you have to give as well in your writing. So it has to be more than one. Okay, you need to give reasons. Okay, since the reasons are written in plural, then there should be at least 2 reasons, okay, written in your essay, in your email to your mom, okay, why you want to buy that particular set. Okay. And the last one, sorry, not the last one, second last one, which is the present tense or the past tense. If you look at as a whole, if you read this instruction as a whole, are we talking about our past experience? No, we're not talking about our past experience. We are talking about an actions that's going to happen in future. So automatically, when you read this instruction, you know that the whole essay that you're going to write will be written in present tense. So the first paragraph in present tense, the second paragraph in present tense, and then the third one would be the present tense as well, the concluding marks. Okay, and the last one would be, sorry, I'm going to highlight this as a whole, okay, as another P, okay, and then the last one would be 80 words. Don't forget that your email should not exceed more than 80 words. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's a plus minus 80%, plus minus 10%. So you can stay right up until 88, but you must make sure that you do not exceed more than 88. The moment you exceed more than 88, you might lose mark, okay? And you don't want that to happen to your script, okay? Your teacher also doesn't want that to happen to your script as well. All right. Now let's have a look at another example. Now this time you do first, and then we do some discussion together. Okay. All right. This is another example taken from 2016's examinations. We have top spinning, chongkak, kite flying, and cycling. Now let's read the instructions. You wish to carry out one of the activities with your friend. Okay. Write an email to invite your friend to join the activity with you. You may include details such as time, place, equipment, or any other useful information. Write your answers between 50 and 80 words. Now kids, you might want to pause this video first so that you can do the flip 80 by yourself. Okay? So pause, berhenti kejap. Okay? Look at the screens, identify the instructions using flip 80, and after that you tekan balik play and listen to my neck. Okay, so have you searched for the informations yourself before you listen to my answer? I hope you have. Okay. Alright. Now let's do this together. So, the first tip in FWIP 80 is what? F. F stands for format. Yes, you have to understand what's the requirement. Okay. So, the first is F. F stands for format. So, format here would be email. Good. The F is here, the email. Okay, so now you know that you're supposed to write an email. Okay. Then we have W. W stands for what? Whom? To whom? To whom? Kepada siapa? Yes. To whom are we supposed to write this email? Okay. We're supposed to write to our friend. Okay, good. So we know that we're supposed to write to our friend. So, since that we know that we're supposed to write to our friend, don't write to your parent lah. Ini the question asks you to write to your friends. You write to your mother lah, your brother lah. Okay, I know lah your brother can be your friend, but you have to be very clear that you're not supposed to pull the legs of the examiner. Okay, alright. Now, so we know that the whom is the friend. Okay, but you have to be very careful as well, because sometimes the instructions can be very, very tricky. Sometimes they give your friends a name. Okay, dia dah letak dah names kat situ siap-siap. So you have to be very careful. Okay, alright. Write an email to invite your friends to join the activity with you. Oh, lawa juga Mr. Warid. Handsome. Okay, so write an email to invite your friend to join the activity with you. Remember the next point. What is it? I. I stands for invite or inform. Okay. Now, in this activity, in these instructions, are we supposed to only to inform, or are we supposed to invite? Yes, we're supposed to invite. How do we know that this instruction would require us to write an invitation? There's a word invite here. Good. Okay. So, as you can see, kan, the clue is everywhere. It's not like going by one. No, you have to understand. That's why you need to have some trick in your sleeve. Okay. So, I. Good. I forgot to put I here. Let me put the I here. Okay. Alright. Invite. So you have to invite. Since that you have to invite, in your email, you have to make sure that I'm writing this email to invite you to come to my house to play this and this. Only then you tell why you want to play that thing with your friend. Kan? Then you are telling to examiner that you understand the instructions given to you. Okay. Next is the point. How many points are we talking here? Okay, the first point that you have to be alert would be one of the activities. Okay, so since that we are only talking about one of the activities, okay, from here, so you have to choose lah. You cannot lah choose top spinning, congkak, kite flying, cycling, semua benda kau nak bedal. Cannot. Okay, you have to choose only one. Okay, since we're talking about only one, so only one. You know, satu. So we're talking about congkak. Then if you want to play congkak with your friend, then you write you want to play congkak with your friend lah. And then next, you janganlah cerita pula you want to play kite flying with her. Automatically you show to the examiner that you don't understand the questions. Okay, so you definitely have to be very, very extremely careful with this. Okay, since the question say one of the activities, then you have to choose only one here. Okay, you want to play cycling, if you want to do cycling, then you go for cycling. If you want to do kite flying, then you go for kite flying. Okay, alright. So, one of the activities, which is point, and don't forget that you have to provide. Okay, you may include details. So, wait, let me see. You may include details such as time, place, useful information. Okay, this is only when you want to explain why you want to play that with your friends. So it's not much of importance. But the most important thing is that you put one of the activities. You make it very clear to the examiner that you have chosen one activity only. Okay. The next P would be past tense or present tense. So from this whole thing, okay, daripada keseluruhan instruction ni, you have to ask yourself, are we talking about things that has already happened, or are we talking about things that gonna happen? Okay, so based on these instructions, we know that we are going to write something that is going to happen in future. Okay, you haven't invited your friend to come to your house yet. Okay, you just about to invite your friend. So the whole essay, the whole email is going to be written in present tense. Present, present, and present. Salutation in present, your content in present, and your concluding remarks also in present tense. Okay, and the last one would be, I'm going to put P here for the present or past. The last one is that you have to be clear and you have to make sure that your writing does not exceed more than 80 words. Plus minus 10%, so you can go up until 88, but you have to make sure that it doesn't go up until 89. The moment it goes up until 89, what should you do? Yes, you have to erase or you have to buang certain words, okay, that you do not need in your essay. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Satu markah is valuable because that 1 mark equals to 2 marks. Okay, this is not just 1 mark, this is 1 mark times 2. Okay, so 1 times 2, that's going to equal to 2 marks. So imagine kalau you got 78 and you can actually got 80 because of these 2 marks. Okay, so you don't want such a thing to happen. Alright, so kids, first, before we conclude our session today, I would like to remind you, Section B Part 2, okay, Section B bahagian kedua tu, it's not just testing your writing ability, but it also tests you about your understandings towards the instructions and comprehension itself, okay. So, in order to understand the instructions, it's always good to bear in your mind FWIP AT, okay. So, when you look at the instructions in Section B Part 2, remember Mr. Warid punya FWIP AT. Ask yourself about the format, ask yourself about to whom are you going to send this email or letter to. Talks about, are we supposed to inform, are you supposed to invite, and then are we talking about past or present experience, and the last part we're going to talk about the points. And of course, don't forget that you're supposed to not write more than 80 words. Mr. Warid, kalau lebih 80, bukan ke saya lagi hebat? No. It doesn't happen that way, sayang. No. Alright, so thank you so much for listening and for watching me. I really hope FWIP AT would benefit you and help you to understand Section B Part 2, and inshallah that would help you to score more than 80, provided your writing is also okay lah. Okay. Alright, so thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe me at Mr. Warid Mihat, and then I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video. Bye bye. Ciao.